At the end of the day, it sure seems like that entrepreneurial spirit, which kind of built America, has left. Go try stuff.
With kids, learning about entrepreneurship is so important.
There's a lot of ways to make money, be financially free, and help people and teach people.
We all have to find our thing. But what we're saying is don't be in a rush. Well, welcome everybody to another Main Street Influencer interview. I get to talk to a Main Street business owner that's changed the lives of so many people. Just such an honor to have us here with me today, Ken McElroy. Thanks for finding some time to be with us.
Absolutely, Mark. I've been looking forward to talking to you here. We saw each other last week,
Yep.
and thanks for coming to Scottsdale and happy to share whatever it is you ask. I have no idea, but I do this to educate. That's why I do my podcast. As you know, it's really, really fun for me.
Well, I love it. Now, for those that don't know Ken, he is just such a well-respected real estate investor, author, speaker, just had such a successful event, Limitless, in Phoenix, or I should say North Scottsdale. I was able to participate in that. It was just wonderful. I took so many notes. There were so many great speakers there. And usually I'm a standout speaker, but there were so many other great speakers. I was just like white trash, when I was there. No, it was so good. Ken has also co-authored books and worked closely with Robert Kiyosaki, just a mountain of a man in this industry. And so you've got such good a network and people you work with. He's also the CEO of MC Companies, a prominent real estate investment firm. He's got the charity sharingthegoodlife.org. And we're going to get some contact information for people out there in the description. But Ken, we're just grateful to have you here with us. And thank you for your example and your leadership in the real estate and small business sector. It's just so powerful.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a blessing, honestly, for me. It's given me way more than I've given it. At least it feels that way. So as long as it stays that way, I'm going to keep doing it.
I love it. Well, we're kind of neighbors because I'm Scottsdale as well. I'm up in the mountains right now in the summertime. It seems weird, but this is a real fire, and Ken is in 110-degree weather, and I'm trying to stay warm here. So now, Ken, as he said, everybody here, I really like interviews myself that kind of probe and look for an angle that is a little outside the box. And many of you may have not purchased or read Ken's book, Return to Orchard Canyon. I want to say apple orchard because there's an apple tree out here. In fact, one of the kids today said, there's apples on the trees. I was thinking apple orchard, but Return to Orchard Canyon. And it's such a great parable, a modern parable about business and investing and family. And I always get choked up because I grew up on a farm too. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that book. And many of you that haven't read that book, I encourage you to get over to Ken's site, kenmcelroy.com. It'll be in the description. But this book, tell us about it. It's a space you still own.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to write this story? And I've got so many questions and things I want to kind of elaborate on there.
Well, I got to be honest. I always have a book in me at some point. So I have 7 now. And so I bought this property in Sedona. It's a resort it was an actually working property that exists today. It's called Orchard Canyon. So it's www.enjoyorchardcanyon.com. So it's a fully functioning resort. It's one of the top resorts in Sedona. It's right in Oak Creek Canyon, and it's just drop dead gorgeous. But I bought it, Mark, in 2014, and it's just been a labor of love for me. And it's 350 apple trees. It produces its own apple cider, farm to table. It's a full, it's sold out basically year round, and it's just. It's my place, man. I go there, I relax, I enjoy it. And so, but there's only been really a few owners of the property in over 100 years. And so I bought it from the Garland family that owned it for 42 years. Wow. And so I had the opportunity to meet, I didn't meet Bill Garland, the patriarch, but Gary and Dan, his sons, they must have been in their late 60s, early 70s. And Gary was just tired and ended up coming for sale, and I bought it. And I bought it for the water rights, believe it or not, of all things.
Well,
But also, it was a cash flow. It was a cash flow deal, which is what I teach and what I do. So it's a great place for me to buy something, just as a real estate play, but it's a covered real estate play. And I also knew that the Garlands were running it very much like a family business, like they had for years, which I very much respect. But just getting to know the hardships at the property over the years and how it's evolved, literally, because people fly fish on the river there, and it's just incredible piece of real estate in this beautiful canyon that leads kind of up toward the Grand Canyon. So while I was there and doing due diligence, and after I owned it, I found all these barns full of cool stuff, and you start to hear about some of the people that lived in Sedona and how it all started, and then I had heard those same stories like yourself from my own parents. My dad, was in World War II, and was in the Seabees, and it was in the construction
wow.
battalion. And my dad, I growing up, I always worked with my hands, and my dad was a contractor, and we never ever had anybody ever come to our home, and we always built our own things and fixed our own things, and I always heard those stories, and so for me, I was able to blend the two, and the characters in the story are my parents and my brother and sister, and but the lessons are the ones that, if you go and look, that have happened generationally. So
Yeah.
inflation and the devaluing of the money and hard work and sending the kids off to school and thinking that's the better generation, and then them coming back and realizing that, the most amazing place was home. Almost like the Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home. And so it was, and as that is the reality. When you're a young man and you're trying to bust out and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to get out of here, you don't realize how amazing it is. And so a lot of people leave Sedona, come back to Sedona. Same thing with the town that I grew up in.
Yep.
And so
let me yeah, no, I love it. And I think you said a couple things in there that I wanted to draw out, and that's sending the kids off. I know both of us are parents. I've had a chance to meet your sons. They're just phenomenal. And we send our kids off and they start to believe like things are different. Like, we can do it better. I probably felt the same way when I went off to college, but, kids think we can do it different. It's a different generation. It's a different time, Dad, and all this stuff. But what I loved about the book, and I think a lot of people miss out on, is that law of the harvest. There's not a get rich quick scheme, and going back to the roots, if you will, to no pun intended, it's really important. I don't know, and you've tried to probably convey that to your sons as well.
Without a doubt, excuse me. Without a doubt, I actually think that there's an illusion that that school. Both my parents never went to college and barely finished high school, and they always believed that if they could have, they should have. And so that, from the time I was little, they were always like, saving or trying to push us all to go to college. And I believe that that's what that generation did. I'm not so sure it worked out. You know what I mean? In other words, I don't know that the education system produced what, maybe it made it more doctors, lawyers, CPAs and things like that, which is awesome, great careers. But at the end of the day, I think Wall Street kind of took all that cash that these hardworking people make. And at the end of the day, it sure seems like that entrepreneurial spirit, which kind of built America, has left as a result of those decisions that were made. And all I was trying to do is let's try to tie that all back.
Yeah, no, I love it. With my kids, get this quote out of the way. I told my kids, I want you to go to college. I went to college, but I said, I really don't care what your grades are. I want you to go to learn. Don't worry about the grades. Go to learn. If you take a class over again, who cares? Now, if you want to go to graduate school and be a rocket scientist or get into some, you know, next level school, have a good reason. But I said I don't want you in debt. I don't care about your grades, and I want you to start developing a small business, so that by the
Yep.
time you graduate, you've got some street smarts to go
Yep.
with those book smarts.
Yep.
And every one of them did. They even my daughter went on to esthetician school, and we're going to be working on a spa. And I do a lot of spa research. So if you ever want to, let me know. That's tax write off, by the way.
My wife's an esthetician, so we have a spa. So I do understand where you're heading with that.
Yeah, because you got a spa up at Orchard Canyon.
We have
You
one
got.
there, but we also have one in Scottsdale. Yep.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So you got to go to spas to just test them out, see what the competitors are doing.
It's
Nothing wrong with
tough.
that.
I know.
Perfect tax deduction. But no, anyway, with kids, learning about entrepreneurship is so important. Tell me what your thoughts are on, as you meet with real estate investors, young people or old, on this expectation that I've got to have success right away. If I'm going to do real estate, if I'm not making money or cash flowing immediately or quitting my job, they're a failure. What do you tell
Yeah.
people about
Well,
that?
I think getting back to the book, I actually think that that is the core reason I wrote it. So I think that my parents, a lot of generations believed that success was sending their kids off and getting a better education. And I think that what happened was a lot of those folks that did that believed that making money and and that buying stuff was success. And I actually think that it was completely wrong. so
Ah,
so what I think at the end of the day, the reason that you met both of my boys at Limitless last week is because they were there and they wanted to be there, and I think that's success. So people ask me what's success. I said when I get texts from my kids, that's success. So so I think that those family core values where you're sitting around the table, you're sharing, you're breaking bread, you're enjoying each other, um, and getting into meaningful conversations like last night with my son at dinner, that's success. I don't think that it's chasing dollars and stuff at all. And I think that, I've instilled those into my kids from the time they were young.
isn't that funny? It was almost a paradox that our parents, they were so focused on get to college. You can be a professional, this, or this, like gave the list. And to them, that was like, and you're going to have a nice car and you're going to have a nice house and all this. But the paradox was their hard work. We're not going to go out to eat, but once a month, we're going to just have a family dinner every night. We're going to sit around and play games, and we're going to just have that family core. They didn't know it, but that's the best part of what they were teaching. Just the solid family core values.
That's right. That's right. Those are the things that my parents taught me. And I think that unfortunately, you look at it's been very disconnected. So and as people go out and chase what they think success is, and who am I to say what people think it is? I'm just
Sure.
telling you that if you go and take a look at like hospice, the 5 regrets at the end of your life, money and work and those kinds of things aren't on that list. So I think what happens is you have the illusion early on, like I did in my 20s, right? I was trying to
Yeah.
get the heck out of the house and get off the payroll and not have to be dependent and do what I want and enjoy life and all that stuff. And then I quickly realized that the world is kind of a harsh place. You have to learn how to navigate it. And there's a lot of stuff that you have to learn. And so I too was trying to grab that golden ring for the longest time, I would say through my 20s. And then I started to realize in my 30s that I wasn't seeing my kids as much, right? Because I was building my businesses and doing all this stuff. And so that's when I started to make a conscious decision of taking summers off, taking winter and summer break off, and spring break off, and 3-day weekends or whatever. So my rule was, if my kids were out of school for any reason, I didn't work. And then also I coached them both. So, so I was always with them, and I moved the priority up, well above business. And I don't think a lot of people do that. So I remember going to one of my mentors once, and he said, I want you to do a pyramid, and I want you to list three things. I want you to list wife, family, and business, and put them in the order of your importance. And most people, depending on who they were, it was business, kids, wife. And he said, that's very common. And what it should be is flipped. It should be wife, kids, business. And so I think, when you see it that simply and you start to realize that that is the order, you realize that the business and all the money and all the stuff, that's just to support the other two.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and for you young people that are, I have a lot of followers that are under 35 too, and out there chasing the golden ring and real estate investing in small businesses. And I applaud you. You may be thinking, man, these sound like old guys here. What's going on? But we're saying still kick butt, work hard. I'm there. I'm with you. I'm still chasing my dreams in a lot of ways. We're not saying that. At least I don't hear that from you or myself here. But what we're saying is don't be in a rush and realize that your ladder might be up against the wrong wall if it's all about having things. And but the relationships you're building along the way is so important to me. And I know you motivate a lot of your kids to, let's go, let's work hard, let's produce, let's create, but not as the get all end all. I don't know if you talk to young people how you might phrase it.
Well, I agree with you. I can see how somebody younger might say, "Oh my God, these guys are, that's not a real estate channel." Well, and people might not know. I bought over $3 billion worth of real estate. I've done a lot in this industry. We currently own two, and we have 300 employees, and that's all I do full time. In fact, today I was on investment committee calls and all kinds of stuff, pushing things along. But at 5 o'clock, I turn off my computer and I have dinner with my wife. And that's the difference. I'm busting my ass all day. And not every day, but, so there's a time and a place, and you can move the needle at any point. The point is at the end, relationships are super important. And loyalty and character and all that kind of stuff is actually what makes good business people. And I think that's where I focus mostly is, how do you sharpen those things to build relationships? Because today, the reason why I'm on your show is not because we know each other well. It's because of my reputation, of the way I run my business, the way I run my investors, the way I run, those kinds of things, and the ripple effects that the procession of those kinds of things. And I think that's the most important. As we, because it's not just about making money. It's about a long-term view and creating relationships and making a lot of people money, So my core philosophy is to make my investors money. That's it. And if I do that, then I make money.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. You've done so much in real estate. I know some of you may not think you may think this doesn't sound like a real estate show because I'm constantly preaching my successful clients buy real estate. That's what I teach my clients. Go learn from the Ken McElroys of the world because that's where we need to deploy your retirement accounts and your cash flow and your wealth that you're building. So, but underlying all that real estate talk are these core values, and that's what when you're trying to get up at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning or 7 or whatever your time is, people that you get up to work out and hit the day. If you don't have something internally driving you, it makes life a lot harder, and it's just so tough. Well, I want to ask you. Well, yeah, go ahead.
No, I think you're right on. I think that's what you actually have to learn. I still have relationships that I created when I first got in the business. I started in property management. I started with a 60-unit property that I managed in downtown Seattle. And I was collecting rents, painting units, cleaning toilets. That's how I started. And through that, I just built relationships and asked great questions. and I still have those relationships from the late
Wow.
'80s, literally.
Wow.
Uh, and you never know when you're going to draw off of those, and also there's this hidden momentum and karma that exists when you move from chapter to chapter of your life, and they're really tailwinds for you, and in times of need they show up.
Wow. No, that's cool. It's I like that karma, destiny, the universe. It all circles back. A lot of people think, well, that's a coincidence. No,
It
coincidences
isn't.
don't happen.
That's
It's part
right.
of life.
It is true.
Well, one more topic I wanted to touch on, and maybe it's to father me too. And and I don't know the answer to this too. How involved in your business are your boys? Your are your sons doing their own businesses? Do they work with some of your businesses? Um, the reason why I ask is, so you know, is that I have some people I interview. They're like, nope, I don't think your family should be in your business. Let them do their own thing, or they can figure it out. I don't want to tie. And I've always been a little spoiler alert. I think having my kids or my family involved in business is so important to me because it creates another level of connection and an opportunity to work together, and I can influence them. Where do you stand on that, and how involved is
Yeah.
your family in your business?
Well, let me just go back, and I'll I started working with my kids when they were 6 and 8 years old through playing cash flow game, and then
Uh,
they've had many businesses. My kids, believe it or not. So
I love it.
when I have a home in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I'll be there actually leaving tomorrow, and I'll be there all summer. But we would go out at night and get golf balls. And while that sounds like a small thing, when you're 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they were making each about $1,000 a summer. Now, so there's a zillion lessons. There's distribution, there's cleaning them, there's pricing, there's packaging, there's sales, there's marketing, there's all this stuff that happens, oddly enough, on selling back used golf balls. And so we did that for 3 summers. And the only reason I bring that up is because, again, this is my strength. Okay, I've built many businesses, I have many companies. So now I'm sitting across from them as we're cleaning golf balls, talking about how they need to be the best. And there's all these things that you can. There's lessons all through there. And so what happened, Mark, when my kids got to the point when they were in college, um, they don't ask me for money. They never have. They don't. They know how to make money, and they've had multiple businesses, and I won't go through all. And they're small. They're small little things, and they're just side hustles, really.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they don't ask. And so when they want, I wait for them to ask to come into the business. And by the way, they worked here. They cleaned units, they painted units, and they did all kinds of stuff for summer money. But and then when my older son asked, I said, well, you don't know anything and you're not going to get respected here. So you need to go out and work for someone for 2 years before you can come into the business. So he went and worked for a private equity company for 2 years. And I said, if you understand how people get money and don't get money, then you'll understand a lot more when you start here. So he did that first. He graduated from University of Arizona through the entrepreneur program through the Eller School at U of A. And then he went to work for a company, and he started here in January.
Wow.
And then I put him up underneath somebody that's been in the business for 30 years, so he's learning under him. And so there's a process and that has to be followed. My other son, same thing. He wants to come to work, and I'm like, again, same conversation. Well, you got to go out and learn what's up. You can't just because you just want a paycheck. That doesn't help me here. You're not going to get any respect. You got to come in with some swagger a little bit, and you have to know some things, and you have to add some value when you come in. And so it teaches them to go out and do that. And so that's what my younger son is doing, and he's only 21. So that's what he's working on right now.
Well,
So,
oh no, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say I wish I could take credit of how insightful you were and to send them out for 2 years, and then that you had this master plan. With my son, I have one son, and I just was talking to him today. He was helping solve a problem in our marketing department today. He's so talented. And it was funny. He was working with me off and on through college and summers and this and that. And he was like, he wanted to come on board. So I brought him on board, and we worked together for a couple of years. And then he was like, I need to go out and I got to go do my own thing for 2 years or whatever. And I was like, okay, knock yourself. And it can be hard working closely in a business with family.
Yeah.
But he was, I have to hand it to him. He was like, I got to go do this. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. But it was interesting. He finds out real quick, working for dad isn't that bad a deal. There's a lot of bad employers out there. And to have the autonomy to take ideas and be an entrepreneur inside the business and take ideas and go with them, he really found that it can be tough out there being inside a large organization. But he learned a lot. And then he came back and was like, okay, can we work together again? I'm like, I would love to have you back. And I respected him so much more too for what he learned out there. It was so good. But I like that what do they call it in the Amish, where they have to go out for a year or two and then they come back?
Yeah.
I forgot the name for that. Yeah.
I just think, I, I, growing a business and becoming affluent has its curse. When kids grow up under that. That's not how I grew up. So I have both perspectives. They don't. And so when they get an opportunity to go out into the universe and understand, how things can be very different on their own, untethered, then I think that, they come back a little wiser. And so that's what I was trying to do for them, because, as parents, we want the best for them, but sometimes letting them learn on their own is the best thing for them. And I also believe that I don't think kids listen to their parents. So I don't think that they really respect them until they're in probably their mid-20s.
Yeah.
So, and because they're learning. I don't know how you were with yours, but I feels like every time I ask that question of people, they said, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So what I always tried to do, Mark, is I always tried to make sure that my kids were around and surrounded by other people like yourself or me in my circle of people that I know that, that I completely trust whatever they say and do. And I know that they're always like pushing them positively in the right direction.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, and this interview has certainly turned into a little more fatherly advice fireside chat. And so let me ask you this: if you had my son or your kids or daughters, I've got kids my daughters have worked with me too. All these young people out there. What's your advice in getting involved in real estate or small business? And we talk about this perspective now that we're fathers and we're looking back on our kids and what we did right and wrong. What's some of the thoughts that come to mind to just give them a shot in the arm here after all this rambling?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think that there's a couple things I would say. The first thing is there's a really cool study by Edgar Dale that was done in the 70s, actually 60s, I think, that talked about how people learn. So if you look at how people learn, there's obviously reading books, listening to podcasts, and let's just say watching something or doing the real thing, doing the real thing. So you can imagine that doing the real thing has the highest retention and the highest, learning, right? So from and as you know, so I think what happens a lot of times is that kids believe that if they listen and read, that all of a sudden
it's going to happen.
Yeah. And so I think you got to flip that a little bit, and kids need to go into situations where they're curious, they're open-minded, and they say, I want to learn here, I want to learn this, I want to learn that, and they go work there, and they go have an internship there, because what's going to happen is. And I'll give you a great example. My son, Kyle, my oldest son, who you met, wanted to be in advertising and marketing when he was a sophomore in college. So I'm like, awesome, great. So why don't you work on an internship? He's like, that's a great idea. So that summer, he got an internship at a big advertising and marketing company. And after that 2-month internship, he said, that's not a business I want to be in. And I was like, awesome, check that box, move on. And I think what happens a lot of times is people, they work toward this degree or whatever it is that they do. My wife's the same way. She, you met her, she's a teacher or was a teacher. Okay, she got an education degree. She was a 7th and 8th grade teacher. When she got into the system, she realized that she didn't really like it. And so I think what happens is you have to go in. You have to really think, okay, what do I want to learn, and how do I draft underneath somebody, and see if I even like this, and I think that's the key to everything, because then you learn a little bit, you learn what you do like, what you don't like, and then you can slowly assemble your life path.
And you know what I love, Ken? This is so funny, the dichotomy between my oldest son, he's my oldest child too, Dylan. I got him involved in a rehab. It was a duplex, and we were putting in a third unit in the conversion in the garage and into a studio. And this was up in Idaho. And I'd been talking real estate my whole life. So I was so excited to do this project with him. And so we get into this rehab, and he hated it. Just hated it. It was just, he was like, this is too stressful, digging too much, pounding too much, work. And I love it. Like after work, I was like, let's go. I want to get out there, get the nail gun going. We're pouring cement. What are we doing today? He was like, none of that. And he went into sales and marketing, and he went and worked like these 2 years. What I was saying, he went off and worked for a couple of firms in sales and marketing, loved it. Yeah. And I was like, that's great. You found what you love. So he's circled back to help me in my business, but he doesn't want anything to do with the pounding a nail. He's like, I want to do the sales and marketing, but we all have to find our thing. And I like just like you said, get out and try it.
Get out and try it. And my kids are very different people. And from the same parents, you know what I mean? They like different things. It just is what it is. It's fine. And I'm trying hard not to direct them to what I think is best for them. I want them, because once they find what they love, they're going to sail. And so that's it. So I think that's the advice I give the young kids is go try stuff. I don't know if you go, I did pop bottles, and back then you could trade those in. I did the S&H stamps. I did the paper routes, I worked as servers, and I was all kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh!
Working all through college, and you kind of learn so one of the things my son did, actually when the pandemic hit, is my friend, and keep in mind at this point he's 18, 19 years old, and I said, Michael, do you have any work for Kate? He goes, I don't, but I have some work in my warehouse. I said, Cade, you want that? He said, I'll take that. So Cade goes into this warehouse, and he's working 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Oh, my word.
And it's a big company. And I after a few months, I said, so what do you think? He's like, I realized I would never want to work in a warehouse. And I'm like, well, really? He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, there's one guy in there. He's like 45. He's been married 3 times. All his money goes out to alimony. And you can't teach that stuff.
No.
Right? And I'm like, I go, okay, that's the whole point. I'm sure they're great people, but it's all about these small choices right now that you're making. And I said, I'm sure these folks are just fine folks, but you don't have to be in those positions where there's some financial freedom, and there's some awareness, and there's personal development, all these kinds of things that you can do to set your life path on whatever direction you want.
No, I love it. We've got to wrap this up, but I just love our conversation. We've got to share all the different businesses we probably started. I've started. My brother and I even bid on a roadkill pickup business. They're like, you can get the state contract for that. How much do they pay? I just got to pick up dead deer in the back of a flatbed. All right, that's it. And we do the craziest things. But what's funny on that last note is when I was getting my accounting degree in law school and wanted to work with one of the big four accounting firms and had left tax court to go, and I was in Portland, Oregon, and getting up every morning and going into this glass massive steel building and never putting my feet on grass and working for companies that made millions and millions of dollars, out of touch with reality. I hated it. I was like, I want to get on Main Street. I want to bring it, and I want to help small business owners, which tax lawyers normally don't do. They chase the buck. And I said, I can do volume and help small business owners. And so it's funny. I had to try that too, because we all think, oh, I'm going to love this. It's got to be the title of our podcast today is just try stuff.
It's true, Mark. As you know, and we can go down all kinds of rabbit holes about businesses that I've had, and I still have, actually.
Yeah.
Limitless is a side business for me. It's very much a side business, and as are so many others. And the point is, I enjoy it. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to make money, be financially free, and help people and teach people. And there's so many ways.
I love it.
It's so fun. Like, you don't have to be stuck in this corporate corner, and all the complexity and the toxicity that can happen, especially the toxicity in some of those organizations.
So hard.
They don't. It's managers managing managers. And there can be nothing worse.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's corporate world. Wall Street, we both hate it. Well, Ken, I am so grateful that you were able to find some time for me, my listeners, the viewers on YouTube and on the podcast. You're just, again, such a great leader in the industry. And folks, please get to his website. There's so many links down there below to his books, his podcast, the real estate projects he's doing, the nonprofit. It's all there at kenmcelroy.com. Ken, thanks for your advice for our young people today. Boy, everyone just got a lecture, right? Man, I didn't need to call my dad.
I know. Well, maybe next time. I know. Trust me. Everyone wants to know the answer. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
How do I get rich? I get it. I get it.
This is it.
That's something.
Well, well, thanks again, Ken. We hope to have you back. Wish you the best in all you're doing.
You too, Mark. Good chatting with you.
Thank you.